Should be a good one tonight, folks. Pretty excited. Honestly, we've had a great week. We've had a pretty good month. For the off season, Golden Bluted has done really well. I looked at YouTube Studio, and actually the month of September is looking better than the months of October or November or December, and definitely better than January. And it's all because of you guys. Greatly appreciate it. Got another good one for you tonight. And if you don't already know, I'm going to tell you. Pac-12. Oh, man. I'm hearing a lot of things about the Pac-12, folks. I'm hearing that some teams want to merge. I'm hearing that they're making promises if the merge falls through. Votes swinging one way or the other depending on the merger. Crazy stuff, guys. Crazy stuff. I am hearing one thing. I will say this. I am hearing that they are expecting to add San Diego State. I'm still not sure about SMU, but I'm starting to hear that San Diego State will be added to the Pac-12. But once again, still waiting on the official announcement. So we'll see what actually happens. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. Here's the thing when it comes to conference realignment. Everybody says, my source says this. My source says that. My source. Everybody thinks they're right. But we won't know until it actually happens. And that's why you are in the speculation zone. That's where we're at right now. We are in the speculation zone. So buckle up, guys. Here we go. By the way, before we go any further, make sure to hit that like button. Even if you're watching the replay, you weren't able to catch this live, that's okay. Hit the like button. It still helps the video hit the YouTube algorithm, still gets it suggested, and it still helps us get views. So we would greatly appreciate that. Somebody's spamming in the chat. Somebody take care of that. I don't know why people think they're funny when they do that. You're not funny, bro. You're not funny. Anyways, on to the Pac-12. By the way, if you have a comment, question, or suggestion, and you want everybody to see it, just like you see my subscriber count. We had a great week as far as, excuse me, gaining subscribers. Great week. So there's your subscriber count. But if you have a question, comment, troll attempt, easy target right here, Golden Bluted, hit that super chat button. It's that little dollar sign that you see on the bottom right-hand corner. Anything you put in that super chat is going to go on the screen. I'm going to read it. I'll address it, and everybody else will see it as well. And on top of that, it's a great way to support the channel. We always appreciate those super chats and those donations, for sure. We always appreciate those. In the off season, they mean just a little bit more because people lose interest in college football and the views go down, and it's a little more difficult to make a living. So those donations are greatly appreciated. But we have had a great month, so I'm not going to complain too much. All right, so let's talk about the Pac-12. Yes, I'm hearing that they are going to add San Diego State. SMU, I don't know what happened. I really don't. The main thing that I'm hearing about SMU is they're not getting the votes. They're not getting the votes. So is it going to be the Pac-11? Are they going to change their mind about San Diego State? I don't know. Are they going to change their mind about SMU? I don't know. But I'm hearing yes for San Diego State and no for SMU. Other information that I call it information, but you really don't know if it's information until it actually happens. So I'm going to say other rumors that I heard right before I went live. So I haven't even talked about this at all, and I will be doing a video on this tomorrow. So a video is coming. But I just got this right before I went live on here. So what I'm hearing is that George Kliavkoff will have a virtual meeting for the possible purpose of a Big 12 merger. I'm hearing from a lot of people that that's on the table. He's seeing that the Pac-12 is in a hole, and maybe the only way out is to merge with the Big 12. And on the side of Brett Yormark, they talked about a Big 12 Pac-12 merger a while back, but the terms were either even or slightly in favor of the Pac-12. Well, what I'm hearing is that is that the Big 12, Brett Yormark, is going to make sure if a merger does happen, that the terms would actually be in favor of the Big 12. So that's a little bit interesting. So I don't know if that virtual meeting is supposed to happen tomorrow, this week. I don't know. That's just what I'm hearing. On top of that, one of the reasons why SMU hasn't made it into the Pac-12 yet is, well, they haven't got the votes. Not yet, at least. Here's what I'm hearing. Arizona schools voting no to expansion schools currently, right now. But if merger falls through, they'll vote yes via verbal agreement. Hold on just a second. So they don't want expansion if there's a merger. Okay, I guess that does make sense. But if there's no merger, they're going to change their votes to a yes. I'm not done. Hold on. Put a pin in that. Because on top of that, I'm hearing that Stanford and Cal are voting no on expansion candidates. That's the big hurdle that I'm hearing. Arizona schools are kind of on the fence. They're trying to make up their mind. If merger fails, the Arizona schools could offset the Stanford Cal no votes with yes votes. So the no votes are looking like Stanford and Cal for sure, and then possibly Arizona and Arizona State. But if the merger fails, then Arizona would flip over to a yes, and they would bring in, I'm guessing, SMU and San Diego State. However, if that merger does fall through and they vote yes, Arizona and Arizona State are expected to be the first teams to leave the Pac-12, possibly followed by others. That's a lot to take in. A little bit confusing, if you ask me. John Teal, thank you for the $5 donation, says, after all these fighting words, I want to merge with the Big 12. Nice. Then add USF and Memphis. 6 14 pods. Your 3 plus 2 other pods. 11 conference games. 11 conference games? Ugh, I don't know about that. I would probably still stick with 9 and have those 3 out of conference. That only gives you 1 out of conference game. That's the only thing that I disagree with you on, John. Everything else, I can roll with it. I can roll with it. But that last part, not really sure about that. So, looking at all this and trying to figure out what is going on, basically the Arizona schools really, really want a merger. That's what I'm hearing. It almost seems like that the Arizona schools want to be in the Big 12 one way or another, whether it's the merger or whether the merger falls through and they bolt. I'm not hearing a lot of chatter from Utah and Colorado fans. I will say that. I haven't heard anything, nothing from their president, nothing from fans, nothing from the administration, nothing from the Pac-12 in general talking about Utah and Colorado. Absolutely nothing. Everything that I'm hearing is about either Cal or Stanford, Arizona or Arizona State, and then a little bit of talk about Washington and Oregon. That one video that I made earlier about Washington and Oregon, possibly Cal and Stanford going independent, I mean, I've heard that from Washington fans for a while now. I dismissed it. I don't see that happening. And this is no disrespect to Washington or Oregon fans. None at all. You guys have a great school. Top rate. Great fan base. But you don't have the national presence that Notre Dame has. Notre Dame is really the only brand. Well, maybe Ohio State. I think Ohio State could pull it off too because Ohio State has a massive, massive fan base. They don't need to, though. They're in the Big Ten. So Washington and Oregon, I'm not sure about that. But the way that the possible agreement that's floating out there was laid out to me, it kind of does make sense. Let me go over it one more time. I did a video on this, so if you already watched it, you already know what I'm about to say, but let me go over this again. So what I heard, I'm just going to read it real quick. Late this evening, I heard from my Arizona source that Washington, Oregon, Stanford, and Cal are actively devising a plan behind closed doors to work with Amazon and ESPN to go independent in the likely, use the word likely, scenario that Four Corners schools bolt for the Big 12. So This depends on the Four Corners bolting. I'm guessing if the Four Corners don't bolt, then none of this happens. Keep that in mind. A key element in this plan is that Northwest 4, I like that name, by the way. Great branding name. Four Corners for Arizona, Utah, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. Love it. And then the Northwest 4 for Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal. Great branding. Love it. Anyways, all right, let's move on. Is that the Northwest 4 would form an ESPN/Amazon-backed schedule agreement between each other, renewed biannually in 2-year cycles. So it'd only be a 2-year deal, and it would be renewed every 2 years. The thing that really jumps out on the page whenever I read that is ESPN/Amazon. So if they get the ESPN/Amazon deal, does that mean the Pac-12 has 0 bidders? 0, none, if they're going to focus on the Northwest 4. That's really concerning if you're fans of the other Big 12 teams. Unless you're the Four Corners and you bolt to the Big 12, then you're all good. And include Oregon State and Wazoo to a lesser extent in that agreement, both of whom would likely end up in the Mountain West Conference. So Oregon State and Wazoo would also be a part of this agreement, but not as much as the other 4. Maybe just like, a date on the schedule and they get paid per game. I'm not sure what that means. This schedule agreement would preserve traditional rivalries, talking about Oregon, Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, and Stanford, between the 6 schools, and fill at least 5 games on each of the Northwest 4's annual football schedules, alleviating much of the schedule nightmare that can accompany independence. That would be my main concern if I was Washington and Oregon, filling your schedule. ESPN would then help the Northwest 4 fill the remainder of the schedules with Big 12 and SEC teams, mostly Big 12. This would give ESPN the late night window it desires without overpaying and without a long-term agreement. That is the sentence I am looking at. That is the sentence right there, because here's the thing. The Pac-12, something in my eye. The Pac-12 does bring something to the table for ESPN, and it's that late night window. ESPN needs content to fill that late night window. Well, with this agreement, it's for 2 years, and it can be renewed every 2 years. They would still be able to fill that content without a long-term agreement with the Pac-12. This would be major bad news for the Pac-12. So that's the sentence that really popped off the page to me. Goes on to say it gives Amazon an entry point into college football with only a few games, but ones that are likely to draw nationally. This reduces its risk. The examples he gave: Oregon, Washington, that'd be a big game. Oregon, Baylor, possibly. Washington, Texas, Stanford, BYU. It also gives your mark some excellent non-conference Big 12 matchups over the short term without the awkwardness. Listen to this. Without the awkwardness of bringing in culturally misaligned Northwest 4 schools only to have them bolt the moment the Big 10 eventually comes. Yeah, that's the problem with Oregon, Washington, Cal, and Stanford coming to the Big 12. I don't think it's going to happen, but if it did happen, they would basically be using the Big 12 as a stepping stone. A lot of people are okay with that. Some people not so much, but that's a fact. If those 4 schools came to the Big 12 would simply be a stepping stone. So with this particular scenario, agreement, rumor, whatever you want to call it, the Big 12 could schedule those teams without accepting them into the Big 12, knowing that eventually they're going to bolt for the Big 10. We already know that Washington and Oregon have applied to the Big 10. The Big 10 turned them down, but we know they want to go to the Big 10. So if Washington and Oregon, Cal and Stanford for that matter, ever join the Big 12, it would just be a stepping stone. This agreement would fix that. John Teal, thank you for the $5 donation, buddy. Says, only say 11 conference games to generate more hype. Gotcha. We wouldn't have the brand, so I figure why not excitement? I sent the pods on Instagram. I will definitely check those out. Which, by the way, when y'all watch my videos and I make these merger scenarios and I give out my pods and all that stuff, I strongly encourage y'all, if y'all see something, I don't quite agree with that, Golden Blue, give me your pods as well. I am open to suggestions. Remember, we are in the speculation zone right now. This isn't like ironclad, going to happen, prediction type of stuff. We're trying to figure out what avenue would be best for these teams. Let's see, where was I? Oh, yeah, the last sentence. This saves face while maximizing revenue for his members. So we're talking about George Kliavkoff. He is the guy that dropped the ball for the Pac-12. I actually feel bad for Pac-12 fans. I really, really do. This guy has led y'all into no man's land. Even if you're able to lock down a TV deal, it's not going to be very good. Not at all. The Big 12's old TV deal expires a year after the Pac-12's old TV deal expires. What did Brett Yormark do? He jumped the line, negotiated with Fox and ESPN, and nailed down a TV deal. It's not great. It doesn't compare to the SEC and the Big Ten, not even close, but it's a deal. It's stability. Pac-12 is on very, very shaky ground right now. Very shaky ground. And honestly, I would say the two schools that the Pac-12 needs to worry about right now as far as bolting is the Arizona schools. Without a doubt, 100% the Arizona schools. Maybe it is all four of the four corners, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. Maybe. But I haven't heard anything from Utah or Colorado. In fact, I've heard arguments to the contrary, where Utah does not want to be in the same conference as BYU. One of the main reasons why BYU wasn't accepted into Pac-12. Well, not one of the main reasons, but one of the reasons. There's a bunch of other reasons above that, but one of the reasons. And Colorado State doesn't want to have to go back to the conference that they left for the Pac-12. They don't think it would be good for their image. So I haven't heard much from them, other than I'm not so sure about that because BYU's in there for Utah fans, and we don't really want to go back to the Big 12 because that would show that we made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. I don't understand why people have such difficulty admitting and owning up to mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. We're all humans. And I'm not even saying that Colorado jumping to the Big 12 was a mistake. I'm just saying to Colorado, maybe to them, they're afraid to other people it would look like a mistake. So what? So what? You have to make the best decision for your school right now. Right now. Now, having said that, if the best decision is to stay in the Pac-12, then stay in the Pac-12. But if the best decision is to go back to the Big 12, then go back to the Big 12. Don't let that, we don't want to go back to the Big 12 because that looks bad on us. Don't let that get in your way. All right? Do what's best for you. And I'm not even saying that Colorado going to the Pac-12 was a mistake. I am not saying that at all. In fact, I think it was a good move at the time. There was no way you could look into the future and see what we're seeing right now happening. There's no way. There's no way you could see that. So I think it was a good move. You just got a hold of some bad leadership in the Pac-12, and it happens to the best of us. It does. John Teal, thank you for the $5 donation, says, Colorado wouldn't be going back to the Big 12. They'd be joining the Big Pac. I like that comment. He's talking about the merger between the Big 12 and the Pac-12. And I'm seriously, I don't know if it's going to happen. This is not a prediction video, all right? You're in the speculation zone, all right? Which, by the way, we're still working on the merch store. That's I'm not sure where we are as far as steps and what day it's going to be out or if it's already out. But we're working on different stuff for the merchandise store. I already know that, of course, the Golden Blue Dude brand will be on that stuff. I know that the checklist is going to be on that stuff. And today, shout out to Joey, by the way. That intro was Joey's idea, the speculation zone, and I loved it. I'm going to do it in all my conference realignment videos, and we're going to put that on our merch. So we will be selling merch that says, welcome to the speculation zone. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Appreciate that, Joey. That was an awesome, awesome idea. But as far as the Big Pac goes, the name that John Teal has dubbed for the Big 12 Pac-12 merger, don't know if it's going to happen. But if it did, definitely in size, it would rival the SEC and the Big Ten. I'm not sure about the money. There are some great brands in there. You have Washington, you have Oregon. You still have Baylor in there. You have Kansas for basketball. You have Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, West Virginia's in there. And I think BYU is a great brand. Utah's a good brand. They just won the Pac-12 again. The only thing that would make me hesitant on a total merger is the fact that the playoffs expanded to 12 teams. That's the only thing that could stay as far as a hindrance in front of that. Because right now, with the 12-team expansion, the top 6 conferences are guaranteed an auto bid. And you know the Pac-12 champion will be considered one of the top 6 champions. On top of that, the top 4 champions get a bye week. So they have a chance to get a bye week. Well, if you merge the Pac-12 and the Big 12, the road to the playoffs do get more difficult. Yep, gets more difficult. So it all depends on priorities right now. But the problem is timing, because those playoffs don't start till 2024. So timing is against the Pac-12. They have to make a decision right now. They can't wait till that new playoffs is implemented and see how they do. Can't wait or how much money they will make. They can't wait on that. They have to make a decision right now. Is a merger with the Big 12 the best choice right now? I'm a West Virginia fan. My team is in the Big 12. So this might surprise you what I'm about to say. I would say no. I would say no. Now, having said that, I do think teams jumping from the Pac-12 to the Big 12, that's not a bad choice. Like the Four Corners or just Arizona and Arizona State jumping to the Big 12, that's okay. But a complete merger, I don't think that would be a great deal. Number one, I'm not sure how much money that would bring in. I'm really not. Maybe we would make a little bit more. Maybe not. I don't know. And for West Virginia, that would most certainly create more travel difficulties. I mean, we already travel a lot. We travel more than any other team in the nation. Basketball is brutal. By the way, side note, West Virginia whooped Oklahoma State by 20 points. We might make it to the big dance. We need to win one more game, and West Virginia gets into the big dance. But problem is, we have 2 road games and 1 home game. I'm not going to go down that road, though. John Teal, thank you for the $2 donation, says, more difficulty, yes, but more respect for W's. That's true. And that's why I'm saying it depends on what each not fan base, but what each university wants. I agree with you, John Teal. I 100% agree with you. And on top of that, if the Pac-12 and the Big 12 merges, they would most certainly get multiple teams in, because they would be representing a large chunk of the United States, mostly from the West Coast or the west side of the United States, but some East teams sprinkled in. So you got to take that into consideration. So yes, maybe you're guaranteed a spot if you win the Pac-12, but number one, you're not guaranteed to win the Pac-12, right? Number two, if you merge with the Big 12, that conference result after the merger is going to get multiple teams into the playoffs. Maybe rival the Big 10, maybe even rival the SEC. I don't know. I guess it just depends on, how well the teams perform and what type of viewership they're getting in. That's another thing that I would be wondering, because Brett Yormark wants all 4 time zones, and if there's a merger, boom, that happens. Now, if only Arizona and Arizona State jump to the Big 12, still doesn't have that Pacific time zone. And a lot of people are telling me, well, that's why he's going after Gonzaga in basketball. Yeah, but he wants the Pacific time zone in football, and Gonzaga doesn't have a basketball team. In fact, I'll go on a ledge and say this. I think that if he can only get Arizona and Arizona State out of the 4 corners, and Oregon and Washington are not budging, I think he would actually be okay with bringing in Washington State and Oregon State to grab that fourth time zone. Or maybe he would try to counter the Pac-12's offer to San Diego State and try to grab San Diego State. There's a lot of options. I don't think he would go after Stanford and Cal, and I don't think Stanford and Cal would come to the Big 12. That's not happening. No way, no how. They are too good for the Big 12. They're not coming. So even though it might not be the brands that he wants, Oregon State and Washington State would fill in that Pacific time zone. And remember, we heard that the Pac-12 had brief talks with Fresno State. That was, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago. And then this past week, we heard that the Big 12 was talking to Fresno State. Oh, man. Man, oh, man, oh, man. I am not sure about that one, guys. I am not sure. I know that Brett Yormark wants that fourth time zone. But, and no disrespect to Fresno State fans, you guys have an up-and-coming brand. One of the best group of 5 teams out there, bar none. You do have a fantastic fan base. You have the highest viewership out of all the Mountain West schools. So you would bring something. Problem is, in the Big 12 TV contract, it doesn't guarantee any revenue bump if you bring in a group of 5 school. That doesn't mean it won't necessarily happen. It just means there's no guarantee. Just like whenever you bring in a Power 5 team, there is a guarantee of $20 million. But it doesn't stop there. That's just a guarantee. That's just the baseline. They can renegotiate the numbers and give everybody a slight bump, because if you really think about it, if that was the end-all, be-all, the Big 12 would never expand again. Never expand again. If there was guaranteed no money coming in for a group of 5 team and only $20 million, that's it, for a Power 5 team, the Big 12 would never expand again. No group of 5 team is going to come in. Well, the group of 5 team might come in because it would still make more than what they're making in their current conference. But the Big 12 teams wouldn't vote them in because they would take a pay cut, pretty substantial pay cut. So that wouldn't happen. And then with the Power 5 teams, they're like, even though we have a bad TV deal over here, if we jump over to the Big 12, it'll be even worse. No, thank you. So that's just the baseline. Otherwise, the Big 12 would never expand again. John Teal, thank you for another $5 donation. Appreciate you, buddy. 4 teams in the playoffs would be on the table. I agree. If the Big 12 and the Pac-12 merged, it would be on the table. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but I do think it would be on the table. Every time zone, player recruiting in California, Texas, and Florida, it would be the deepest conference. I like the way you worded that because I've made videos on the most important states as far as expansion goes, and that's California, Texas, and Florida. And if the Big 12 merged with the Pac-12, they'd have every single one of them covered. We already have UCF in the state of Florida, and then, of course, Baylor, TCU, Houston, and Texas Tech in the state of Texas. John Teal, another $2 donation, says, if Stanford and Cal passed, then Fresno and San Diego State. Did I read that wrong? If Stanford and Cal passed, then Fresno and San Diego State. Oh, you mean they could take their place. Yeah, and I do, if Stanford and Cal left and Fresno State and San Diego State were admitted, I actually think viewership and fan base as far as watching the actual games would actually go up. But that research money would probably go down. So I'm pretty torn about that. But I might go back and screenshot that after this live is over and do a video on that. That's a pretty good comment right there, John Teal. Dennis M., thank you for the $5 donation, says, do you ever see conferences getting rid of teams? Love that question. Big Ten could be Northwestern, Nebraska, Indiana. For the SEC, could be Vanderbilt, Missouri, to make room for other teams. For the SEC, I would say definitely, because there is no exit fee, and it depends on when the grant of rights expire. People got to realize, for the grant of rights, it's not just the teams locked into it. The conference is locked. They're binded to each other. So, yes, theoretically that could happen, but they would have to wait till the grant of rights ran out. I'm not sure when the SEC's runs out. So when that runs out, then they would inform the teams, no, you're not signing because we're kicking you out. So, yeah, I think that's possible. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. That's a great question, and I've done a video. It was a long time ago, so I need to do another video on that as far as teams getting demoted. So I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to do a video on that. I was already thinking about doing a video on that. So great comment right there. As far as the potential candidates, well, Northwestern, I believe, was a founding member of the Big Ten. So I don't think they would do that. Plus, Northwestern has great academics. They contribute to the Big Ten in other areas. Nebraska, as crazy as it sounds, because Nebraska has multiple national championships. Nebraska does have a great fan base. But Nebraska no longer has AAU. They had AAU whenever they joined the Big Ten because it's a requirement unless you're Notre Dame. But they dropped it. I'm not even sure if it was a year into their membership. They dropped it fairly quickly after they joined the Big Ten. So if anybody out of your list were to get kicked out, it would probably be Nebraska. Now, the bright side for Nebraska is the Big 12 would definitely pick them up, and maybe even the SEC. I could see the SEC picking up Nebraska. Missouri would absolutely love that. They love playing Nebraska. But back in the day, they got whooped by them, so don't know how they feel about that. But Nebraska, I think Nebraska would be a great ad for the SEC. Perfect ad for the Big 12. We already know that because they were great in the Big 12 when they were in the Big 12. Indiana, no, I don't see that happening. I think Indiana was also a founding member, and they also contribute in other ways. So from that list, the most likely to get kicked out, I'm not saying it would happen, but the most likely would be Nebraska, but they would definitely have a home in either the SEC or the Big 12. For the SEC, Vanderbilt or Missouri. I just don't see the SEC kicking anybody out. I really, really don't. Vanderbilt is definitely a founding member. Missouri, I don't know. I don't know. They grabbed Missouri over West Virginia because of that Kansas City TV market. I'd have to see the numbers. I don't know if that pick is paying off or not. That's the big question. I would have to see the TV numbers. But good choices because anybody else, you really can't think. They're not getting rid of Kentucky, Tennessee, no. South Carolina, no. Florida, no. Georgia, definitely no. Alabama, definitely no. Auburn, no. Ole Miss, no. Mississippi State, no. Texas A&M, no. Although I do think there's a chance that Texas A&M could leave the SEC for the Big Ten in the future. Texas and Oklahoma coming in, so that's a no. Arkansas, no. If I missed anybody, I apologize, but I don't see that ever happening. But if they did, it would be Missouri. That's a big if. I would have to see those numbers for sure. But great question. I really like that, and I will do a video on that. So, if the merger does happen, if the Big 12 merges with the Pac12, does the Big 10 or the SEC do anything? And what about the ACC? Do those 8 teams that I'm hearing that's willing to vote to dissolve, do they finally vote to dissolve? Because remember, even though we're hearing that there's 8 teams and they would do that, it hasn't happened yet. The ACC still exists. And it's going to exist for the foreseeable future until that happens. It hasn't happened yet. The ACC still has 14 members. Good to go. So the Big 12, the Pac-12 merge. That takes a lot of options off the table for the ACC. Number one, we heard about the ACC merging with the Pac-12. Talks fell through. It didn't happen. And then here more recently, I heard that the ACC is interested in Washington, Oregon, Stanford, and Cal, and they were having talks. Well, if the Big 12 and the Pac-12 merge, then those talks are off the table. Because like the person in the message that I read said, Oregon and Washington, yes, would be likely to vote for the Big Ten, but not for the ACC. I just don't see that happening. So if they merge, then I think the ACC would be the conference that would be in the most trouble. I really, really do, because I think those 8 teams would be like, well, we have no options. The money is crappy here. We love being in the ACC as fans, but the money sucks. We have our destinations. the Big Ten has promised us a spot or the SEC has promised us a spot, guys, we're not grabbing any more members because they're all taken up. Time to vote to dissolve. The ACC would be in trouble if that happened. John Teal, appreciate yet another $5 donation. Appreciate you, buddy. Says, nobody will get kicked out of a conference. I do agree with that. It's just a road we had to go down because of the comment. However, teams would be advised to enter the transfer portal. Interesting. You know what? I am going to write that down because, number one, I forget things. Number two, that's a great idea. So, this will probably be a video for tomorrow, by the way. Transfer portal for teams. I like it. I like that idea. I really, really do. I'm not sure how that conversation would go between the conferences and teams, but it'd be funny. Anyways, yes, I do think that the ACC would be in a world of trouble if the Pac-12 and the Big 12 merge because their options would be off the table. And if that happens, those 8 teams vote to dissolve. And I think Clemson, Miami Hurricanes, NC State, and Virginia head to the SEC. And then North Carolina, Duke, Georgia Tech, and Florida State would head to the Big Ten. Here's the thing. If that – you're okay, Hillbilly Skeptic. I understand. Here's the thing. If that does happen, then you'd still have 6 teams left over from the ACC. You'd have Syracuse, Pitt, Boston College, Louisville, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. 6 teams. What would happen to those teams? Now, remember, the Big 12 and the Pac-12 have already merged. Would they be willing to look east and strengthen the east side? I would hope so. I would hope so. Like I said earlier, as a West Virginia fan, I am not hoping that the Big 12 and the Pac-12 merge. That's bad for West Virginia. Our travels are already brutal. That would make it even worse. I know you could do scheduling that would minimize it, but it definitely wouldn't help. And on top of that, what I just mentioned, if that merger happens, then how likely would it be that the Big 12 looks to the ACC for those leftover 6 to strengthen the east side? I think the chances would go significantly down. There's only so much money out there. Then you just start dividing the pie even more. You don't add money. You just start dividing the pie by more slices so everybody gets less money. Not sure how that would work. Todd Gwynn, thank you for the $5 donation, says, the SEC bylaws now assign a $30 to $45 million exit fee. Didn't know that. Depending on circumstances, and at least 2 years' notice to withdraw from the conference. Thank you for letting me know that. I need to look up some of these bylaws and stuff. It's just that I do videos every single day, and then live shows during the week. It gets difficult to actually look things up. So appreciate the heads up on that, and I'm definitely going to look into it. Maybe it's worth the video. Maybe. We'll see. John Teal with another $2 dono. Appreciate it, buddy. Says, if the Pac-12 and Big 12 merged, maybe, here's the curveball. All the options aren't off the table. Because he says maybe Notre Dame will join the ACC. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. And if that happens, the ACC is saved. They're good to, listen, I would hate to be ACC fans right now. I really, really did. Really, really would, because number one, you have that thing hanging over your head that possibly those 8 teams can vote at any time. Who are those 8 teams? You're looking over your shoulder. Is it them? Is it them? Are they the one that's going to betray us? Wondering. But then on top of that, you see Notre Dame out there. You see them. You play them. They're a member of the ACC, but not a full-time football member. But if Notre Dame joined the ACC as a full-time football member, boom, the conference is saved, you're stabilized, and you're going to make more money. And maybe that's ball game as far as conference realignment. I don't know. It just depends on how much money the merger would make, and it depends on how much money the ACC would make after Notre Dame. So if that happened, maybe it would be the merger that would be in trouble, because the ACC is like, hey, we're getting a significant increase. West Virginia, we know your scheduling issues are a little bit rough over there. Why don't you come on? Hey, Cincinnati, what do you think? Hey, UCF, what do you think? You know, different teams that are close to the ACC, or maybe they're still interested in Washington, Oregon. Hey, we know that the talks fell through earlier, but we're making a lot more money, and with you guys coming in, we can make even more money. Notre Dame is a game changer. As much as everybody doesn't like Notre Dame, it is what it is. Notre Dame's a game changer. Larry Pilgrim, thank you for the generous $10 donation. Appreciate you, buddy. Says, Utah fan here. Networks don't need the inventory, and why $0 will be given for G5 teams. Not much will happen until Big 10 and Big 12 media deal comes around. I agree about the inventory thing, except for ESPN. ESPN does need inventory, especially for that late night. That's why what I mentioned earlier as far as the biannual deal that they would have to renew every 2 years that I talked about earlier, as far as Washington, Oregon, Stanford, and Cal going independent, having a 2-year deal with ESPN and Amazon for 2 years, renewing every 2 years. And on top of that, Oregon, Washington, Cal, and Stanford wouldn't be tied to a conference long term. So if that 2 years rolls around and the Big Ten comes to calling, boop, off to the Big Ten. So that's why I really like that idea. Whether it actually happens, I don't know. So to a certain extent, I agree that networks don't need inventory, but there are extenuating circumstances sometimes. It's kind of a give and take right there. John Teal, thank you for yet another $2 dono. Appreciate you supporting the channel, but he says, then after Notre Dame, the ACC gets to 16 with Yukon. And I know a lot of people would look at that and be like, Yukon? Yukon's football is terrible. Okay, well, Yukon had a stretch where they were actually pretty good in the Big East. And they just hired a pretty good head coach, and they got to a bowl for the first time in like a decade, something like that. I don't know the exact years. So they're on the uprise now. Whether that's it, getting to a bowl, that's it. Yukon, that's the best you can do. I don't know. Basketball is where Yukon is at, and they would most certainly strengthen the ACC in basketball. So bringing in a combo of Notre Dame and Yukon, I like it. I really do. You have the Notre Dame brand, and then you have the strength of the Yukon basketball brand. That's not a bad idea. Dennis M., thank you for a $5 donation. Appreciate your support, buddy. I remember when Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Miami Hurricanes, Boston College, and Pitt, this stings a little bit, but it's true, all left West Virginia for death when they left the Big East for the ACC. Can you say karma? He's talking about what I mentioned earlier. If the merger happened and then the ACC split, and then those 6 teams, four of those he mentioned right there, yeah, that would definitely be karma. Definitely. Now I'm kind of torn about that, because on one end I'd be like, yeah, they got what they deserve. But at the same time, I want to play them. I actually want the Big 12 to go out and grab those teams. So I'm kind of torn on how I feel about that. Matt Ritson, thank you for the $2 donation. Says Stanford or Cal can go independent. What future? Ugh. Those 2 teams, I'm not so sure. I'm really not so sure about those 2. I think Oregon and Washington would have a much, much better chance. But then if you factor in the endowments for Cal and Stanford, maybe it is doable. Maybe they drop football altogether. I don't know. There's a lot of options out there for them as far as what they want to do if the Pac-12 does dissolve. Would they be okay with the Big 12 Pac-12 merger? I don't know. I'm not inside their heads. Good question. I do think they're sustainable if they use their endowment money, but the biggest thing about that would be filling up their schedule. Who wants to play Stanford and Cal? I mean, you're having to go all the way out on the West Coast. So the time's not going to be great unless you get them at your house. And, I mean, no offense to Stanford and Cal fans, but you already know this. You're not a big football brand. So you're not a big draw as far as somebody's out of conference. And you're looking at having to play what? Maybe no. Well, Notre Dame will schedule Stanford. Maybe Cal too. So but that's one game. What about your former Pac-12 mates? Will they be sore at you and be like, nope, we are cutting you off. You didn't come with us? I don't know. A lot of questions about that. John Teal with another $5 donation says, your pod would be with Cincinnati, USF, South Florida, and UCF. The other two pods you play is 4 home and 4 away. The trick is playing week 0, so you get 2 bye weeks. I actually like that. I wish college football would do that. Hawaii and Vanderbilt do that a lot. Hawaii and Vanderbilt play on week 0, therefore they get 2 bye weeks. I actually like that because think about it. You're just playing one more game, and you're getting an extra break. You're not having to play an extra half of a season to get an extra break. That is worth a video, my friends. So I'm going to write that down real quick, guys. Hold on. Let's see. I'm going to word it this way. More teams play week 0 for extra bye week. I really, really like that. What was the rest of that, though? The 4 pods, 4 away. Okay. 4 home, 4 away, 4 pods. See, that's how my brain works, guys. That's why I write things down. That's why I look at your comments, because video ideas just... Honestly, sometimes I have so many video ideas that I have this long list, and it's tough. No, I want to do that one. No, I want to do that one. No one. It's crazy how my brain works when it comes to college football, which is why I started this channel, because my friends and my family were like, dude, you're driving us crazy with this college football talk. You need a freaking outlet. And my brothers literally were like, listen, I know you said you wanted to do a YouTube channel for so long, but here's your lights. Here's a stand. You can use your phone or this camera. Do it right now. Like, it was on the spot. My first video was in my brother's bedroom over at my parents' house. I wasn't even at my own house. I was over at my parents' house. They had everything set up, and I'm like, oh, whoa, you mean now? Yeah, now, right now. And it turned out to be a mess. But I encourage anybody watching, if you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel, and, oh, man, I wonder if I need this. I wonder if all you need is your phone. And if you're afraid that you're going to make mistakes, you're going to make mistakes. But the sooner you start your channel, the sooner you make those mistakes, and the sooner you learn from those mistakes. You cannot be scared of making mistakes. That's what stopped me from making a YouTube channel for so long. I mean, I could be 5 years deep into this, or 6 years deep into this, and up to maybe, I don't know, 50,000 subscribers. Who knows? I have high goals. I expect to have 50,000 within the next couple of years. We're going to do that, guys. We're going to do that. Anyways, I digress. Freaking rabbit trail. All right, let's get back on track. So, yes, Notre Dame joining the ACC would absolutely save the ACC, and that's why I really feel bad for ACC fans, because they have the doom and gloom thing hanging over their heads. What if those 8 teams vote? It could happen at any second. And is it you? Is it you? Who are they? And they all probably know that one of them is Clemson, because Clemson will be picked up by the SEC. So they definitely know it's Clemson. But then you see Notre Dame, who's sort of dating the SEC. They're a ACC, excuse me. They're a member of the ACC, but they're not a full-time football member. But if they did join the ACC would be saved. Who knows? Maybe you could bring in Yukon for basketball. You know, maybe get over your hatred for West. I don't know what the deal is as far as ACC's hatred for West Virginia. I really don't. West Virginia was actually up to be a founding member of the ACC. But Maryland was like, nope, we don't want West Virginia ACC. And they convinced enough people to vote against the ACC. West Virginia, honestly, West Virginia has been up for ACC membership multiple times. But for whatever reason, the ACC has never wanted West Virginia. Even last year, there were brief talks confirmed. I know, I made a prediction, and that prediction didn't come true, and I'll never hear the end of it. Oh, this is the same guy that made the prediction that West Virginia Notre Dame was going to go to the ACC. Go to Blue Dude. Is West Virginia Notre Dame in the ACC? Yes, I made a mistake. I made an actual prediction. That's why I transitioned to the speculation zone, because all this is speculation. Nobody knows what's exactly going to happen until it happens, until it actually happens. That's it. So right now we are speculating. I'm telling you what I'm hearing. I'm giving you my thoughts, my opinions, what I think could happen, what I think might happen. but it is not a prediction. Once you understand that, you can actually enjoy yourself over here at Golden Blue. If you're watching this channel with the mindset of, oh, this is a prediction, this will never happen, I'm going to blast him for this. He's going to be wrong about that. He's going to be wrong about that. If you watch it with that mindset, you're not going to have fun. I mean, you might have fun blasting me. Some people like trolling me, blasting me, you know. You might have fun doing that. But if you can get in the mindset of, okay, this is just speculation. He's not predicting this, but it's possible. If you can get that mindset in there, then you can have fun over here. And on top of that, we've switched to this mode to where I actually look at comments and make videos out of them. And I call them the Get It Gang. And merchandise will be coming out with the Get It Gang. That's the thing that I was forgetting earlier as far as the merchandise store. So we're going to have the checklist on our merchandise. You know, hat check, sunglasses, Pepsi, all that stuff. The checklist is going to be on the merchandise. The Get It Gang is going to be on the merchandise. The people that leave video ideas in the comments and I use them. And then the last thing that we're definitely doing is the speculation zone. That's definitely going to be on the merch. I think we have a good merch lineup for the merch store. Very excited about that. Anyways, Pac-12, Big 12 merger. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I'm going to give you an answer right now. I don't think it's going to happen. Do I want it to happen? No. I don't want it to happen. I'm okay with the Big 12 grabbing a few of those teams out of the Pac-12, but not straight up merger. That's not good for West Virginia. All right. If they want to pick up 4 and jump to a 16-team league, I'm good with that. Not a merger. I don't like that. However, would it be best for the Big 12? Maybe so. Maybe so. If I were an Oklahoma State fan, I would probably want the merger to happen. If I was a Kansas fan, I would probably want the merger to happen. Baylor fan, same thing. Texas fan, same thing. But being a West Virginia fan on the east side, it's tough wanting that. It really, really is. John Teal with another $5 donation. Man, you have absolutely helped out Golden Blue this evening. Appreciate it, buddy. West Virginia and Pitt on Thursday night. Baylor and Oregon on Friday night. And Utah and BYU Saturday night. That is a great lineup. That's a week 0 lineup that the SEC or the Big Ten can't beat. Ratings. Oh, yes. I like that. I need to add to that. Hold on. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Yes. Yeah. Now I understand. You give good matchups on week 0, and you would blow the ratings out of the water. And here's the icing on the cake when it comes to that. Even if it's a crummy matchup, people want to watch because it's been so long since you've seen college football. I remember whenever Central Arkansas and Austin Peay played each other, 2 FCS schools. But it was the first game of the year, and yes, I watched it. All right. So people are clamoring for it. You give them good matchups in week 0, ratings through the roof. Ratings through the roof. And I like how you lined it up. Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. College football fans getting their fix with great matchups. In fact, you know what? I'm going to write down those matchups and night because, well, I just have to. Thursday, let's see, what was the other matchup for Friday? No, Pitt, West Virginia. Dadgummit. That's going to be on Friday. All right, so Pitt, West Virginia, on. And I'm okay with the backyard ball being on a Thursday night. Big East played on Thursday night all the time, and that last one was Utah and BYU on Saturday night. Gotcha. I like it. Very, very well done. Yes, I think that would have tremendous ratings. Noah Laura, I'm glad you brought that up. Houston. I don't have a problem with Houston coming into the Big 12. I do think that the Big 12 screwed the pooch whenever came to scheduling, because I was hoping that West Virginia and Houston would play in this first year, and they are. But the problem is they have West Virginia going to Houston. There would have been a lot more drama, a lot more storylines, a lot more talking points if they would have had Houston going to West Virginia. You would have Dana Holgorsen, the former head coach of West Virginia, coaching at Mountaineer Field, Milan Puskar Stadium, for the first time since becoming the head coach of Houston. Yes, they can do it the year later, but they've already played. So the star power or the drawing power of that diminishes a little bit. So I do think that the Big 12 dropped the ball. Anyways, I would have preferred that the Big 12 get Memphis over Houston. Here's why. Houston has a good fan base, but not a great fan base. When you get into the state of Texas, it's basically between Texas and Texas A&M. Then after that, you have Texas Tech, Baylor, and TCU. All decent fan bases, but nowhere close to the size of Texas and Texas A&M. And then there's Houston. And then there's Houston. Not very big. I understand why they brought them in, though, the TV market of Houston. But the problem is, Houston is a pro sports city. Pro sports city. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure if that was going to pick up. Maybe them being in the Big 12, it would draw a bigger crowd, more eyeballs. I'm not sure. That was a gamble. Bringing in Houston, that's a gamble. Bringing in Memphis is more sturdy, in my opinion. You get a new footprint in a new state. Memphis is in Tennessee. And it gives a nice bridge between the East teams and the West teams. So you'd have West Virginia, Cincinnati, and UCF on the east side. And then right in the middle, you'd have Memphis and then the rest of the Big 12. But instead, you have West Virginia, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston, part of the west side. So I think they dropped the ball with Memphis, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to pick it up because of the TV clause. I'm just not sure. I do think Memphis adds some value, but I think if you're going to add Memphis now, at this point in time, then it's just going to be slicing the pie another way instead of adding to the pie. When you bring in teams, you want to bring in teams that add to the pie, not having to cut an extra slice. Man. Jack Cox says Houston Cougars are _1 in the country. GBD, LMFAO. Hey, like I said, I have a lot of Houston fans for subscribers, so it's nothing against you guys. I'm just looking at what the Big 12 has, what they needed, and I just don't think Houston met the needs that Memphis would have. Memphis would have been a bridge from the West teams to the East teams, and you're getting a footprint in a new state, Tennessee. And Memphis is pouring $200 million into the Liberty Bowl. And I did a video on this. Somebody had to have given them the go-ahead on that. There is no way Memphis is staying in the AAC and pouring $200 million. Why would you pour that much money into a renovation to stay in the AAC? I wouldn't understand that at all. Now, it's not the Pac-12. Pac-12 would never add Memphis. Memphis academics too low. No offense, Memphis subscribers, but facts are facts. And I don't think it's the Big 12 now because of the TV clause, and all those other schools would be scared that their revenue would go down. ACC, I'm looking at you. Could the ACC be looking at Memphis? I think they could. Serves two purposes. Gets you a new footprint in a new state, Tennessee, just like the Big 12 whiffed on it. The ACC could pick that up. And for the sheer fact of adding numbers, because the more teams you add to the ACC, the more teams you need to vote to dissolve the grant of rights. So if 8 teams are needed now, you add 2 more teams, that jumps up to 10, and so on and so forth. And you're just not going to have the numbers because the new teams, they're definitely not going to vote down the grant of rights. Definitely. So, yes, I could see the ACC bringing in Memphis. Who they would bring in with them, I don't know. Somebody suggested Yukon earlier. Yukon makes sense with Notre Dame, but I don't think Yukon makes sense with Memphis. You need a strong Power 5 brand to come in with Memphis. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. So, then the West Virginia topic comes up, but I've given up on the ACC. For whatever reason, the ACC does not like West Virginia. We're not their cup of tea, even though I think West Virginia would help the ACC tremendously. The built-in rivalries, you'd be getting the revenue from West Virginia, and you'd be getting more revenue from your current members. Teams like Pitt, even Boston College. Boston College has been an absolute dud for the ACC. But I guarantee you, Boston College fans would certainly watch Boston College versus West Virginia. Great tradition right there. So Pitt, Boston College, reverse. Let's go back to Pitt. Backyard brawl. Remember, even when Pitt plays a really good team, they still have trouble filling their stadium. Last year, Backyard Brawl set a new record, a new city record as far as attendance in an outdoor event. New record. That's what West Virginia does for the ACC. And then there's Louisville. Yes, we would draw for Louisville. Virginia Tech. Yes, definitely. We all saw the Black Diamond Trophy the last 2 years. Packed out stadiums. Yes. Syracuse. That game matters to Syracuse fans. I'm telling you, it matters. Back in the Big East days, it didn't matter how good West Virginia was. When West Virginia came to the Dome, the fans packed that thing out, tried to shove 60,000 into a 55,000-seat stadium. And even if Syracuse was bad, they were still able to beat us because of the Dome effect. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. The years that West Virginia had to go on the road and play Syracuse. I hated it. I'd rather it be the year that we had to go on the road and play Virginia Tech, or go on the road and play Pitt, or go on the road and play Miami Hurricanes, but not the year that we had to go on the road and play Syracuse, because that was almost a guaranteed loss when we had to go into that stinking Dome. Hated that thing. So yes, West Virginia would bring value. But Memphis, it just needs to add more. Going back to the numbers thing, maybe that's the one factor that could help the ACC overcome their hatred for West Virginia. The fight for survival, the will to survive. Adding West Virginia and Memphis for numbers, that way there's not enough teams to vote down the grant rights. You know what? Video idea. What's that, guys? ACC and West Virginia for numbers to keep teams from voting to dissolve. Here we go. Came up with like 4 video ideas during this live show. Telling you guys, that's just how my brain works. It's just how my brain works. Anyways, I've been yapping your heads off for an hour. I appreciate you guys showing up. You guys are what make Gold and Blue. Let's go back to the banner. Last count, we have 12,822. Live show tomorrow. I will update that count, and we'll go from there. I like to be as interactive as... Hold on. There we go. As interactive as possible with my audience. That's why I started the Get It Gang, and look at videos and make videos from the video ideas. And sometimes people leave comments and they're just responding to somebody else, or a generic comment, and they're not intending it, because you can tell when somebody intends their comment to be a video idea and they're not intending it to be a video idea. And I just like it so much that it becomes a video. So try to be as interactive as possible. There you go. So tomorrow we will update the subscriber count, and we will see together the growth of Gold and Blue. That's the one thing that I've kind of dropped the ball on, not keeping you guys updated on the growth. Well, I figured it out tonight. We have a plan. Subscriber count will be updated on a live show to live show basis. Even if we don't gain any, even if we lose some, I'll still update you guys. John Teal, thank you for another $5 donation. This guy is on fire tonight, I'm telling you. Big 12s are making about $31 million each, a total of $372 million a year. If you add Memphis and cut the pie 13 ways, that's 28.6. You'd save the difference in travel. You do have a point. You do have a point. I don't think it would drop like that, though. I do think that they would bring in some money, but there would be, I think it would probably drop from 31.5 to around 30. So they would take a pay cut. I don't think it would be that big of a pay cut, but it would be a pay cut. So honestly, it's up to the members. If they're willing to take that pay cut, whether it's $1 million, 1.5 million, I don't know. I don't know. But if they're willing to do that, then yes, they could definitely bring in Memphis. It's up to the members. It is up to the members. I'll leave it at that. Anyways, guys, gonna wrap this up. Appreciate you guys stopping by. It's not Gold and Blue without you guys. There is no show. I'm just a voice in the face. The obsessed one. That's what they call me. The obsessed one. Make sure to hit the like button on the way out. Even I see you. Even if you're watching the replay, you weren't able to make the live, please hit the like button. That's what helps these videos hit that YouTube algorithm and get it suggested even more. But for tonight, that's it, guys. You guys have been a great audience as usual. And don't forget, word of mouth still works, guys. Go tell a friend. Go tell a family member what we're doing over here at Golden Blue Dude. And make sure to tell them, I'm not doing prediction videos. This is the speculation zone. When you come over to Golden Blue Dude, you are entering the speculation zone. All right? There you go. But, yep. As of tonight, Golden Blue Dude is out.